the sprawling, sun-scorched desert of Saqqara, about 19 miles south of modern Cairo, a strange silhouette pierces the horizon. It looks like a giant staircase, a mountain of stone climbing in 6 massive steps toward the sky. This isn't the most famous of Egypt's pyramids, but you could argue it's the most important: the Great Pyramids of Giza. Those icons of human history owe their very existence to this single revolutionary structure. This is the story of how a civilization, armed with little more than stone, wood and one audacious idea, taught itself to build for eternity. This is the story of the first pyramid and the architectural revolution that kicked off the golden age of the pharaohs. Everyone knows the Great Pyramids of Giza, those perfect, triangular mountains of stone that have captured our imagination for millennia. But where did the idea even come from? How did the ancient Egyptians make the monumental leap from simple graves to buildings so immense they'd be the tallest things on Earth for nearly 4,000 years? The answer is right here, in the sands of Saqqara, with a project that didn't start as a pyramid at all, but as something far more traditional. To understand this incredible jump, we have to go back to a time before the pyramids, when a king's eternity was secured, not by a mountain of stone, but by a rectangular flat-top bench made of mud brick. Before the dawn of the Pyramid Age, Egyptian royal burials were a story of impermanence. For centuries, the pharaohs of a newly unified Egypt were laid to rest in tombs called mastabas. Mastaba is modern Arabic for bench, and that's exactly what they look like: large, rectangular, flat-roofed buildings made of sun-dried mud brick. These structures marked a burial shaft dug deep into the bedrock, where the deceased, surrounded by goods for the afterlife, was supposed to spend eternity. The main royal cemetery was at Abydos, way down south. Here, early kings built huge mud brick enclosures, but they all shared a fatal flaw: mud brick decays. Battered by wind, the rare desert downpour, and the simple passage of time, these monuments would eventually crumble back into the sand they came from. Eternity, it turned out, demanded a tougher material. The ambition of the pharaohs was growing, but their building tech hadn't caught up. A king's legacy was only as permanent as the stuff used to build it. This was the world in the 27th century BCE, during Egypt's third dynasty. A new king, known to history as Djoser, was on the throne, ruling from the bustling capital of Memphis. Djoser had a vision that went way beyond the mud brick traditions of his ancestors. He didn't just want a tomb. He wanted a monument that would not only protect his body, but act as an eternal engine for his soul's journey, a ladder to the stars, the home of the gods. But a vision this big required more than a king's command. It required a genius. Pharaoh Djoser ruled at a turning point in Egyptian history. The government was gaining an unprecedented level of control over labor and resources. It was a time of stability and soaring ambition, the perfect storm for a project that would shatter every record. Djoser, also known by his Horus name Nefertret, made a critical choice. He moved his burial complex north, away from the old royal grounds at Abydos, to the high desert plateau of Saqqara, the necropolis overlooking Memphis. This wasn't just a change of scenery. It was a declaration of a new era. But Djoser wasn't alone. At his side was a man whose name would echo through history even more loudly than his king's: Imhotep. An inscription on a statue of Djoser lists Imhotep's incredible string of titles: Chancellor of the King, Administrator of the Great Palace, High Priest of Heliopolis, and even Chief Sculptor. Though no text from the time explicitly calls him the pyramid's architect, Later traditions, recorded by the historian Manetho, would credit Imhotep as the inventor of building in stone. For thousands of years after his death, Imhotep was worshipped as a god of wisdom and medicine, whom the Greeks later equated with their own god, Asclepius. He was, by all accounts, a true polymath, the world's first named architectural genius. It was this partnership, the visionary king and his brilliant right-hand man, that set the stage for an architectural Big Bang. Imhotep was tasked with building his king's eternal home. But instead of just making a bigger, better mud brick mastaba, he decided to rewrite the rulebook entirely. He would build with stone. While stone had been used here and there for floors or doorways, no one had ever dreamed of building an entire massive structure from it. Imhotep's project wasn't an evolution, it was a revolution. The project at Saqqara didn't start out as a six-stepped pyramid. Its design actually evolved through a series of brilliant innovations, stacked one on top of the other. The first plan was for a large, square mastaba, but one built almost entirely from locally quarried limestone. This was the first revolutionary move, swapping fragile mud brick for the permanence of stone. This stone mastaba was already bigger and more impressive than any tomb that had come before. But it wasn't enough. The structure went through several expansions. First, the initial mastaba was made bigger. Then, a truly game-changing idea took hold. Instead of building outwards, the builders started going upwards. They built a smaller mastaba on top of the first, then another on top of that, and then another, until 6 tiers rose from the desert floor, reaching a final height of over 200 feet, about 62 meters. And just like that, the pyramid was born. The design wasn't random, it was packed with symbolism. This stepped mountain was a literal staircase for the pharaoh's soul to climb into the heavens and join the undying stars. The entire concept of the royal afterlife was now spelled out in millions of tons of stone. This evolution from a single mastaba to a 6-step giant was the eureka moment that would define the future of Egyptian architecture. Imhotep had created a completely new kind of tomb, one that wasn't just a grave marker, but a powerful symbol of royal power and divine ambition. He had invented the proto-pyramid, setting the stage for the experiments of the 4th dynasty pharaoh Sneferu and, ultimately, the true pyramids of Giza. But designing it was one thing. Building it was another. How did a civilization with simple copper and stone tools manage to quarry, move, and lift over 330,000 cubic meters of limestone to create this monument? For decades, the textbook explanation for how the step pyramid was built was pretty straightforward, a colossal amount of brute force and simple machines. Archaeologists imagined thousands of laborers quarrying limestone nearby, dragging the blocks on sledges and hauling them up massive earthen ramps that grew with the pyramid. Levers would have been used to pry the blocks into place. This workforce wasn't made up of slaves, a common misconception, but of skilled Egyptian workers, likely drafted as a form of taxation and well fed by the state. Just organizing and feeding them was a logistical masterpiece, proof of the Old Kingdom's new administrative muscle. That ramp theory has been the go-to explanation for generations. But what if it's only part of the story? What if Imhotep's engineers had a secret weapon, a technology so advanced it could change everything we thought we knew about ancient engineering? A groundbreaking 2024 study in the journal PLES One has thrown a fascinating wrench in the works. An interdisciplinary team of scientists suggests that Imhotep's engineers might have harnessed the power of hydraulics to help build the pyramid. This isn't just a wild guess. It's based on a radical reinterpretation of several mysterious, large-scale structures around the pyramid that had long stumped Egyptologists. The key, they argue, lies in the landscape itself. West of Saqqara sits a massive stone enclosure called the Gizral Mudir. For years, its purpose was unknown. But satellite imagery and hydrological analysis suggest it has all the features of a check dam, perfectly positioned to trap rainwater and create a large, temporary lake. So where was the water going? The researchers believe the answer is inside the pyramid itself. The step pyramid is built over a massive central shaft, 7 meters wide and 28 meters deep. The theory posits that sediment-free water from the moat was funneled into these underground shafts. This would have created a hydraulic lift. Stone blocks, floated onto a barge in the central shaft, could have been raised effortlessly by water pressure. As water was channeled in, the blocks would rise volcano-style from the pyramid's center, where workers could maneuver them into place. This would explain how the Egyptians lifted blocks weighing around 300 kilograms with such precision. If this hydraulic hypothesis is proven, it would be a massive paradigm shift. It would mean the Egyptians had mastered hydraulic engineering on a monumental scale over 1,000 years before we thought possible. It opens up a brand new line of research, transforming our view of these ancient builders from masters of brute force to pioneers of hydraulic power. The mysteries of ancient Egypt are constantly being rewritten by new discoveries. This hydraulic theory shows just how much we still have to learn. If you find these unfolding discoveries as fascinating as we do, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the ancient world's greatest secrets. While the six-step superstar reached for the sky, an equally complex world was being carved out of the bedrock beneath it. The step pyramid was just the centerpiece of a 37-acre funerary complex, a literal city for the king's eternal life. It was all enclosed by a stunning limestone wall over 10 meters high, stretching for a full mile and decorated with recessed paneling that mimicked the mud brick palaces of earlier kings, a beautiful nod to tradition, now rendered in permanent stone. At the heart of it all is the pyramid, but its real purpose is hidden deep underground. The central shaft, which might have been part of a hydraulic lift, plunges 28 meters down to a granite burial chamber. Branching off from it is a bewildering labyrinth of tunnels and galleries stretching for nearly 6 kilometers. This underground rabbit warren was carved out to house the king's burial goods, and maybe even the remains of his family. Some walls were lined with thousands of beautiful blue faience tiles, designed to look like the reed map walls of the royal palace, creating an eternal, indestructible home for the pharaoh's spirit or Ka. But Djoser didn't have just one tomb, he had two. South of the pyramid is the South Tomb, a smaller but equally complex structure with its own shaft and blue-tiled chambers. Its purpose is still debated, but many Egyptologists think it was a symbolic tomb for the king's Ka as the ruler of Upper Egypt, while the main pyramid represented his rule over Lower Egypt, a physical manifestation of the dual monarchy. The rest of the complex was a stage set for eternity. It included real temples for the royal mortuary cult, but also a series of dummy buildings, solid structures, intricately carved on the outside but impossible to enter. These were eternal, stone replicas of the administrative buildings of the palace. The most important area was the Heb-Sed Court, a large open space built to allow the king's spirit to eternally perform a festival of rejuvenation, a ritual a king celebrated to prove his continued vitality. In Djoser's complex, he could perform this ritual forever, ensuring his power for all time. This wasn't just a burial ground. It was a stone model of the cosmos, a theatre for eternal royal ritual. When construction finally stopped, after a period believed to be around 19 years, the length of Djoser's reign, the result was breathtaking. Djoser's complex was unlike anything the world had ever seen. A shining city of polished white limestone, dominated by its stepped centerpiece, it stood as a testament to a new level of human achievement. It was the world's first large-scale stone building, a project that had perfected new techniques in quarrying, transport, and stonemasonry on an unbelievable scale. The legacy of the Step Pyramid is impossible to overstate. It was the blueprint. The knowledge gained here was passed down and refined. Less than a century later, the pharaoh Sneferu would take Imhotep's step design and, through a series of daring experiments at Midian and Dashur, finally perfect the true, smooth-sided pyramid. This led directly to his son, Khufu, building the Great Pyramid of Giza. All of that staggering achievement started here, with this one audacious project at Saqqara. Imhotep, the architect, was so revered he was worshipped as a god for the next 3,000 years. Djoser, the king, secured his immortality not just in the afterlife, but in history. Together, they made the conceptual leap that would define their civilization. They looked at the mud and dust of the past and saw a future of stone and stars. The Step Pyramid is more than a tomb. It's the birthplace of an idea. The moment ancient Egypt truly began to build its way to forever.